a lot of people don't realize how big a deal the Cars franchise is. From what I can tell, the general public's understanding of the Cars universe is mainly just the first movie, which was pretty good, an enjoyable enough entry into the Pixar catalog, but not really seen as one of its classics, and then it got spun off into oblivion to the decimation of the little respect which the brand had to begin with. Here in the YouTube space, it's become pretty infamous for its bizarre world building. There's a couple of memes you might be familiar with. If you're on TikTok, you've probably seen this one. Just like the general concept of a Lightning McQueen race car bed. Cars 2 is commonly cited as Pixar's worst movie. It has gained some contenders in recent years, so the Planes movies are one of those weird oddities the internet will occasionally remember exists and get a good laugh out of.
I'm afraid of heights.
Are you kidding?
If you're in the Disney parks space, you might be kind of surprised that it has its own land dedicated to it at the Disneyland Resort. And if you're really into parks news, you've probably got your fair share of animosity towards it, inexplicably getting another land dedicated to it, this time at Disney World, replacing actual pieces of park history to make way for an IP tie-in to a franchise now that its only piece of media the general public actually really cared about is nearly 20 years old. And while this perception is absolutely true in its own ways, there is another half to the story here. And I think the reason we've only gotten one half of the story is that the people who have had the ability to create a narrative about the franchise for most of its life have not been the target audience. Most of the millennial Disney adults, affectionate, who tend to have the loudest and strongest voices in these spaces, were in their teens or 20s when the first film came out. By the time the second film came out, even the youngest among them were 15. 15-year-olds are not gonna be having Cars 2. But let me tell you, Gen Z friggin' loves the Cars franchise. Eyes would like mine. We grew up on this stuff. Our fragile little developing brains were unavoidably impacted by the tsunami which was Lightning McQueen. There is no way to possibly overemphasize to you how much Lightning McQueen was a staple figure in our childhoods. An iconic all-time character as instantly recognizable as Mickey Mouse and Spider-Man and Cinderella.
I don't know, I never really thought of myself as a brand.
For a little bit of personal context, my family does have a strong history with this franchise. Me and my brother are both Gen Z, so again, we're right in the middle of it. I was a military kid, which comes with its number of crazy, amazing benefits, but one of the few downsides is that every couple of years, my dad would just mysteriously disappear for an extended stretch of time. He was on deployment. Now, I was pretty young when this was happening, but my brother was even younger. And so in lieu of having a dad, my brother elected to instead watch Cars every single day.
If this gets any more exciting, they're gonna have to tow me out of the booth.
Right you are, Daryl.
At least once. A lot of times it was more. It was pretty much just constantly running in our house at the time. So I have seen Cars a great many times, more than your average person. More than your average Cars fan, probably.
Adios, Chuck.
So all of that being established, I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that we were in theaters opening day for Cars 2. We were in Cars Land opening week. You might be a little bit surprised to know we were in theaters opening day for Planes. Admittedly, that one was a bit more out of boredom than of hype, but you know.
Corn. It gives you gas.
We were there. So maybe all of that makes me a little bit of a biased source to be talking about this stuff. But then again, maybe it makes me like an expert. I don't know. What I do know for sure is that I am not alone in this.
I want to read a fan fiction of me getting with the character I want. Lightning McQueen from Cars 2, specifically Cars 2. I cheat on him, he cheats on me, he dies, I die, everyone dies, blah, blah, blah. Why isn't the end goal us? If the fan fiction is labeled me and Lightning McQueen, why can't I just have like Don't piss me off!
Anytime I ask people my own age about their Cars opinions, they light up.
Lit.
Every single time. Every single time. The first movie, classic, and the second movie, so underrated. Man, I love Cars 2. I never understood the hate. Maybe it's all just nostalgia. Maybe it's not the best film trilogy out there, but one thing which should not be misunderstood is that the love for this franchise is vast, deep, and undeniably real. Let me attempt to prove it to you. Disney's a big brand. They have a lot of media franchises that they have created or acquired over the years. Which ones do you think are their biggest? Now, there's no absolute way of measuring things like this, but let's just settle on the financial. I mean, that's what Disney cares about. What Disney-owned franchises have made the most money? There's a couple of obvious ones to get out of the way. They've gotten their hands on Star Wars and Marvel, which can each be broken up into probably infinite sub-brands, but for the purposes of this video, we're just gonna lump all of Star Wars together and all of Marvel together for simplicity's sake. And then you've got your classic homegrown Disney brands, of course, Mickey and Friends, and then the Disney princesses. Even if you're not too sure about the order, I think those have gotta be your top 4 right there. And that leaves us with the question, what's the franchise rounding out our top 5? Everyone knows about the insanity which was the Frozen merch bonanza, and it is actually an entirely separate entity from the Disney Princess brand, so that feels like a plausible contender. There's the Disney Renaissance in general, which has a lot of nostalgia associated with it and has moved a ton of product. If you had to pick one franchise out of that lineup, it's probably gotta be Lion King. Crazy high box office and just cultural saturation in general. There's a ton of Lion King merch. It's got the highest grossing Broadway musical of all time. They have those 2 live action remake movies that made a bajillion dollars. Disney recently got Avatar. Avatar is going to inevitably suffer in merch sales compared to some other things on this list, but the movies alone are the highest grossing of all time, so that's got to account for something. And if you're gonna choose a brand from Pixar that really puts up numbers, Toy Story is the obvious choice. It's the starting point of the company. It's probably their most iconic franchise. The movies are such a cultural touchstone, and they cannot stop themselves from pumping out new content from this universe, presumably because it is so profitable for them. And unlike the topic of this video, its theatrical ambitions have been both more and better received across the board. But as you may have guessed, all of these answers are in fact incorrect. Because we have all made the fatal mistake of forgetting the other forever franchise Disney has wrapped its hands around, and that is Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, bother.
And this one ain't even rounding out the top 5. It's at number 2. It's in the top 3 most profitable franchises of all time. Obviously, this franchise did not start out under Disney and is now so old that it is in the public domain, but Disney's adaptation of these stories are still firmly theirs and are probably the most popular version of these characters. Everyone loves Winnie the Pooh. This guy moves merch. You kidding me?
Who are you?
I'm Pooh.
Oh, Pooh.
So that's our top 5 filled out, but coming in at number 6 is in fact Cars. And important to note here, that one is all Disney. Cars was the first Pixar movie to be released after the Disney Pixar acquisition, so all of those profits have gone straight to them. Now, I'm getting my numbers off of Wikipedia, so they're probably not 100% accurate. They might be a little outdated or missing stuff, or I don't know. But in general, I think it's still good for giving us a general sense of scale. Toy Story as a brand has about 14.8 billion in gross profit. That's bigger than Frozen's 13.9 billion, but less than The Lion King's 15.9 billion, and more than an Avatar's worth of profit short of Cars's absolutely insane $21.5 billion. Just think about $1 billion. What an insane amount of money for anything to make $1 billion. Cars has made that 21.5 times over. Not only does this place Cars as Disney's 6th most profitable franchise, but also rounding out the top 15 most profitable franchises of all time. It does get kicked down one slot if you break out Spider-Man into his own brand. People love Spider-Man. But still, like, that's an impressive showing for a franchise with a universe it seems like nobody cares for. A couple of notable names that I'm surprised Cars beat out: the entirety of the Looney Tunes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all of it. SpongeBob SquarePants, Peanuts, been around forever characters. I think they would have racked up more with time. The Avengers as a brand separate from the MCU, Lord of the Rings, Frozen. Again, I know we covered that one. It's just really surprising to me. Cars has higher sales than Fortnite, Minecraft, and the Muppets combined. Despicable Me, aka the Minions. Cars has made nearly twice as much money as the Minions. That's insanity. And it's all merch sales. 19 bill in merch sales. Little boys love Lightning McQueen. They love cars. They love cars that go fast. They love sports and bright red and lightning bolts and all of the different variations of a character who is bright red with lightning bolts that you could possibly make. This is a box of my brother's old Cars. This is the Cars bin. Let's play a game called Let's See If We Can Find a Normal Lightning McQueen. So here we have Monster Truck Lightning McQueen, Silver Lightning McQueen. It's like silver flames. Rocket Booster Lightning McQueen, Burnt Up Lightning McQueen, Heavy Metal Lightning McQueen with the sunglasses. Oh, he's scared. This is not a normal Lightning McQueen because he's scared. He also has a little O sticker on the top. I think this is just a normal Lightning McQueen. So we found him. We can put him in the truck. Hold on. There he goes. Okay. I found Mac. Blue Lightning McQueen. Dusty Lightning McQueen. This is from the second movie, his World Grand Prix look. Another Lightning McQueen. This one's metal, but he is scratched to all heck and back. Radiator Springs Lightning McQueen. White Wall Lightning McQueen. Rusty's from the third movie. So these are all of the different McQueen variants in my little bit of searching. There might be more in the bin. It's still like half full. All right, and then we have all of our World Grand Prix racers. We of course have McQueen and Francesco, Max Schnell, Lewis, Carla Velosa, Shu Todoroki, Raul Sarul, Miguel Camino, Nigel Gearsley, Butch Gonski, Jeff Corvette. We'll put him next to Lewis. There we go. Now, as previously covered, my brother was maybe a little bit deeper into all of this than your average kid, but I will say it was not uncommon to go to friends' houses and see they also have a bin of Cars. These things were cheap little goodies that you could collect every time your parents took you to the store, and somehow every single time you went, they had new variants and characters to collect. I remember there being a Matchbox Lightning McQueen for the 1 second in the movie that he got like a tumbleweed on his head. They made a car for that because kids were buying whatever new version of Lightning McQueen you would throw at them. And really, they had been craving something like this. The Disney Princess brand was established in 2000 and instantly proved to be a success. It brought all the many female heroines of Disney's animated movies together under one umbrella to market the idea of them as role models for young girls. It made them into a group of friends that would all hang out together in their free time, and which you could imagine yourself being a part of, and of course, choose your favorite out of.
Each princess has her own personality, just like you.
It was great because it combined together what otherwise might have been disparate and disconnected fan bases and made them all connected. Encouraged you to participate in all of them, watch all of the movies so that you can get to know all of the girls. It kept some of the older characters feeling relevant to modern audiences because whichever new princess movie you make next, they can be folded into the brand and make the older princesses feel relevant by proxy. Unless they're too big a deal on their own, then they get their own brand. brand. But also, the brand was generic enough to act as a gateway for all girls into Disney, even if they hadn't seen any of the movies. You don't have to know these girls by name to look at them, judge their aesthetic choices, and decide which one's your favorite, which one captures your spirit. Then maybe you learn that one's name because she's your favorite and you go watch her movie, and now you're into it. I was a Cinderella girl. Obviously. It was a brand which could be marketed to every little girl, no matter their specific brand of femininity, and which manifested in a blanket association between the basic little girl daydream of princesses and Disney. It's kind of diabolical. The boys had no such franchise. Disney had no claim to any integral pillar of a boy's daydreams. You had Mickey and Friends, which would fill similar merchandising roles, but they're much more vague characters, were marketed a lot younger, and are obviously not gendered in the way the princesses are. Mickey doesn't really tap into that young male compulsion to go fast and look cool and do stuff. Really, what Disney needed was a Ninjago, an action-oriented brand with its own color-coded protagonists of about equal prominence the boys could choose their favorite out of. But in the absence of something like that, Cars filled this role just fine. You might not think that Cars has a lineup of unique role models to latch onto, like the princesses, but again, if we're coming at this from a merchandising perspective, who cares what the plot of the movie is? You've got a bunch of cars with unique enough designs to look distinct, each with different colors. There's a red one, and a blue one, and the green one. All of the boy colors. Just as Disney had successfully hacked their way into ownership of the concept of princesses for children, so had they done with Cars. It filled the exact gap in Disney's marketing that they needed it to. And while it wasn't necessarily as nuanced as the Disney princess brand, it had perhaps even made things easier by having a clear favorite they could mass produce merchandise for.
Lightning McQueen wins!
Lightning McQueen was on everything. And he made it so much easier for the company to make gendered versions of products they knew everyone could latch onto. If you're selling towels or pens or light up wands or play phones, you can make a variant with Mickey, a variant with one or multiple of the princesses, and a variant with Lightning McQueen. And now you know you have a version of the product for whatever child might be interested. This trick works with virtually anything. They were printing money. So of course they made a sequel. Now, the first Cars is good. It's like really good.
Hey, McQueen, that must be really embarrassing, but I wouldn't worry about it because I didn't do it.
It's an excellently structured film with some really clear and easy themes to grasp, identifiable characters, fun writing, great atmosphere. It's just a really solid movie. And one which I feel often gets overlooked because people are unwilling to engage with the base premise. But if you're a little kid, you don't have those hangups. Talking cars makes perfect sense. You're already playing around with your Matchbox cars, making them talk, so you have no problem buying what they're selling. I promise you, if you can let yourself be okay with a world where all living things are forms of transportation, a wacky conceit perhaps, but one which does tie directly into the themes of the movie.
Don't you big city race cars ever just take a drive?
No. No, we don't.
Then there is a fantastic movie just waiting for you to rewatch it. The second movie, that one got a little too goofy.
British spy Finn McMissile infiltrates an oil rig owned by criminal Lemon Cars to rescue fellow spy.
Everyone always says it's too goofy. You turned a simple racing franchise into a spy thriller with a message about renewable energy. That's goofy. But to that, I say, you, sir, seem to be missing a bit of context. First off, I mean, the first Cars movie was pretty ridiculous too. We gonna pretend that the opening wasn't a three-way tie involving a car's tongue? We gonna ignore the many fantasy dream sequences this film felt compelled to include? We gonna sit here and pretend that there wasn't a minutes-long fart joke sequence that was crucial to the plot? Cars has always had a little bit of that wackadoo energy to it. It had to. It's such an out there base premise that you can't exactly ignore it. You gotta lean into it a little bit. Second of all, Mater's Tall Tales are required viewing.
If I'm lying, I'm crying.
For those who don't know, these were a series of shorts which chronicled Mater telling outrageous stories about the things he's done in his life, Lightning calling his bluff,
Jumping Carburetor Canyon.
Jumping Carburetor Canyon? No way.
before it's revealed that he was actually there as part of the events.
Guess what? You remember. You was there too.
What?
And the ending giving us some sort of proof that the story is at least based in a level of truth.
Come on, guys, let's go.
These were hyper fast-paced shorts with extreme genre tilts and are some of the funniest and most iconic stuff in the franchise, despite them being very deliberately off the wall.
Dr. Frankenwagon! Piece of cake. And his sponsor!
These were airing pretty regularly on the Disney Channel during commercial breaks in between the release of the first and second movies, so to anybody watching them, they solidified their place in the Cars mythos, which, you know, was most children at the time, because this is when Disney Channel was at its peak viewership. Maybe the adults taking their kids to the theaters weren't clued in, but the target audience, the kids, had almost unavoidably run across this important bridge installment in the franchise. It is absolutely required viewing if you want to understand what this world is. It is a defining feature of it. Best of all, it was profitable.
That sounds like angels printing money to me.
You know how I said they just kept finding new car variants to make? This is part of how they did that. Each of these shorts gave you at least one new Mater and Lightning variant, along with all of the background characters that you could also pull from. This is what was keeping the brand so alive, is that it didn't actually have a lull in content. Cars does not stop just because you looked away. They are genuinely a great time. I highly suggest you go check them out. There's so many just insanely quotable lines.
Fire in progress at 1209er Carmichael Way.
That's the old gasoline and match factory.
With all of that being explained, I think the path we took to reach Cars 2 becomes extraordinarily clear. It is basically just an extended Mater's Tall Tale.
Out of nowhere, this beautiful spy car swoops in from the sky to safety.
That's a very entertaining story, young man.
Oh, Minnie, please.
And yeah, that might feel like a big jump to the average moviegoer who's only seen the first film maybe once or twice. But to those of us who were actually in the franchise, I am sorry to break it to you, but Spy Mater kind of was the next logical step.
17,000 miles an hour? No way.
Yes, way. But that was nothing compared to you.
We're used to these crazy genre shifts, we're used to the Mater focus and the wacky energy and the constant movement. The humor all feels the same, and the world does feel consistent. I saw no contradiction in this when my 10-year-old self sat down to watch this. I was having a great time, laughing up a storm. So was the rest of the theater. This is great! We've got a new lineup of racers to memorize and a bunch of new car figurines to collect. What isn't to love?
McQueen cut the track using an illegal rocket and external assistance in the London race. Should have been a clear DQ. That's probably fair.
Now, is this film a bit clunky in places? Yeah.
Bang it on, get it on.
When it tries being a serious character study, it sucks, which is kind of a shame because the first film balanced that line so well. But the fun action and jokes, which were kids' main draw to the franchise, remained pretty much unchanged. So obviously, we did not care.
The tire pressure is excellent.
He's got plenty of fuel.
And he's awesome.
But of course, the critical reception was just disastrously bad. Like, it was the first Pixar movie that I think people were like, oh, this was bad. That's happened plenty of times since then, but they're not as infamous a bomb as Cars 2 because Cars 2 was the first to do it. And it is because of all this that they ended up doing just a complete 180 on the third film, which is a shame because even though it was certainly a film which ended up being more of what adult viewers remember the first Cars movie being, in the scope of the larger franchise, it's a real weird entry. The world is so much more viscerally realistic. The topic is so much heavier. Its treatment of certain aspects of its universe as like sacred feels especially jarring. The plot of this movie is that McQueen has to contemplate retirement.
Lightning McQueen's racing days are over. Meanwhile, Jackson Storm is looking even faster than...
Like, it doesn't exactly feel like it fits in line with the brand. You can tell it's pulling on things which critics liked from the first film and going all in on them. And it's doing those things well, but it's also afraid to flinch and accidentally remind the audience that Cars 2 existed. It's a movie which feels just a little bit restricted from fully being itself.
There we go. Somebody's interrupting genius.
Everyone likes to hold this up as a return to the franchise's roots because the literal subject matter has zeroed in on racing. But to me, this is very obviously not a return to form in as much as it is an evolution into something different, just like the sequel was. Taking one aspect of the Cars universe and having fun letting that guide your every move. Cars 2 is a great zoom in on the wacky, self-indulgent fun of the Cars franchise, and Cars 3 is a great zoom in on the sports drama angle of the Cars franchise. They are great individual showcases which I equally love, but the first film is still the only one that really manages to capture a full snapshot of what this franchise is as a whole. People forget, but most of the first film isn't really about racing. It's the opening and it's the closing, but a good chunk of our runtime, the real meat of this film, is just non-race related antics in this small town. Racing is a ticking clock, it's a motivation for McQueen, it is foundational to this universe, certainly, but it is not the majority of it. The whole point of the movie is that in the long run, the races don't actually matter.
It's just an empty cup.
So it's just a little bit strange to me when so many people go into the third movie like, man, I'm glad we're getting back into racing again. This franchise is really about the racing. Like, what are you talking about? But there is one addition this film gives the Cars universe which feels unapologetically Cars, and that is Cruz Ramirez.
Use that!
Whoa!
Her energy is exactly the out there personality to complement our existing cast. Her story has just enough weight to it. The performance is stellar. Her dialogue hits that goofy energy sweet spot that I love about the Cars franchise.
And merge and yield. Beep, 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 beep. Now you got some tire damage.
Beautiful. Beautiful character. I think my favorite moment in all of Cars 3 is the one where Cruz's energy finally rubs off on McQueen.
It wasn't your fault that I almost got killed.
Stop.
But now you're leaving and you won't get on the ramp.
Go.
You won't get on the ramp.
She just brings this life to the film that would have been lost without her. I really like her as an addition to this world. It's kind of a shame we've only got to see her in one movie. She's in like the one good episode of Cars on the Road, and she has popped up in the parks a little bit, but I really hope we get to see more of her in all different mediums, including our new Cars expansion in Magic Kingdom. Do you see now how Piston Peak isn't necessarily that insane a pitch to make? Sure, we're replacing a classic attraction with a Cars Land themed to national parks in Frontierland, something which at first glance has nothing to do with the Cars franchise. But Cars has repeatedly taken on new landscapes and aesthetics just for the fun of it. It's kind of their thing. Also, this isn't even a new landscape for them. Piston Peak is an established location within the Cars universe featured in Planes, Fire and Rescue.
I'm looking for Piston Peak Air Attack.
You are there!
Copy that, Jefe!
Just because you stopped looking at Cars does not mean it stopped going. Sure, this section of the park is kind of about like going back in time, but Cars as a franchise isn't exactly new to that concept either. Time Travel Mater in particular comes to mind, but the first and third movies do have a lot of emphasis on learning from the past. As far as the whole national parks angle, like Cars has been preoccupied with the natural beauty of the Earth for a while. It's a fictional Earth, but you know, the first movie has this whole theme about, dare I say, living with the land.
It moved with the land, you know, it rose, it fell, it curved.
And the most operative factor here, Cars is one of the biggest franchises Disney has in its pockets. And it has absolutely no representation at Disney World anymore. They had one stage show which consisted of a single animatronic, but now even that's gone.
Thanks for coming out today. Consider yourselves honorary members of my Lightning McQueen racing team.
Frankly, it is kind of insane that Cars did not have a more robust presence in Disney World up until now. Disneyland has it covered. They had a whole land which pioneered all the technology needed to make these lifelike car animatronics look and move exactly like they do in the movies. It was really only a matter of time before they brought it to Florida. Now, did they need to destroy the whole river to make space for it? I don't know about that. I feel like they had some other options. But I think the idea of bringing the Cars IP to the Magic Kingdom, Frontierland even specifically, isn't that crazy an idea. It's hard to judge based off of all of the drama surrounding the location of it, but like just on its own merits, I think it can probably work. When you understand everything that Cars has done, I think it makes sense. Little kids, and even big kids, care about these characters a lot. I think the discourse on Cars is only going to trend more positively over the years. I think we've already passed the bottom, and I hope it's able to keep its footing in whatever new media we inevitably get from it. If they ever make live-action Pixar movies, I think Cars would be the first to get one. In fact, they kind of already did it. It's called F1, you know, the dad movie of the year.
Lose that lead, I'll kill you.
It's essentially all three Cars movies just rolled into one. The retired racer and the young upstart dynamic from the third one, the racing around the world angle from 2, the themes about humility and driving for the sake of driving from the original. Heck, they even start almost identically.
I'm faster than fast, quicker than quick. I am lightning.
Hey, Lightning, you ready?
Hey, Sonny, 5 minutes.
And that movie did numbers, so that's gotta be a winning formula. You could say it's a Formula 1. I'm sorry.
And those open wheels.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go get myself some coolant.
And also here is Clutch Gonski. It's not actually Clutch Gonski though. It is Francesco Bernoulli painted over to look like Clutch Gonski because they did not, at first I think they eventually did, but they did not at first have Clutch Gonski. It was like the only one of the World Grand Prix racers that they didn't make a little Matchbox car for, and so my brother's thing was incomplete, so my mom painted over so he would have one. So like here's the fake Clutch Gonski that we painted, and then here's the real one that they eventually did release. Not too bad, huh?